In this video, I'm going to share my screen and answer some super important questions that I get from clients all the time. And these are for forms that are due at the end of January. This is, what is a Form 1099? Does my foreign-owned single-member LLC need to file a 1099? Who needs to file a 1099? Who do I send 1099s to? And some really important ones, do I have to withhold taxes on payments to foreign contractors? And do I have to send 1099s to my foreign contractors? So if I employ people outside the US, do they have to get 1099s? So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to try and go through this expeditiously. I'm going to show you source materials, code sections, IRS websites, all IRS source materials to give you yes, no answers to these questions. So let me share my screen and we can get into it. Form 1099. Let's go to this. About Form 1099. There's two kinds. There's 1099 MISC. And there's 1099 MISC and NEC. That's miscellaneous, and that's non-employer compensation. So in short, file a Form 1099 for each person you paid during the year, and at least $10 of royalties, or at least $600 in basically rents, prizes, anything else. Anything engaged in U.S. business. And for the NEC form, that is going to be on 1099 NEC. And that's a newer form, but that's going to be non-employee compensation. So if I paid anyone in the U.S. over $600, I have to report that on Form 1099. Form 1099 looks like this. It's a simple form. It's going to have the payer's name, and then the recipient's name and tax ID, and then what I paid them for. The 1099 NEC is very similar, and it's the same. Payer's name, payer's TIN, so I have to put my name and my tax ID in here, and then I also have to put in how much I paid them, non-employee compensation. How much did I pay this person? And this is generally what's going to be most commonly done. So the answer is, if you're in the US, you have to file it. If you have a multi-member LLC or a corporation, you have to file it. Now, I've been researching this for hours. If you have a foreign-owned single-member LLC, here's what I've gotten to. Internal Revenue Code, this is the regulations for code section 6041, which requires information filings, which is what this is. Information returns of information are not required for payments of amounts from sources outside the United States, as determined under subchapter N of the code under these provisions, paid by non-U.S. payer or non-U.S. middlemen. I know it says that are paid and received outside the United States, but they're paid outside the United States. Now, when we talk about a single-member limited liability company, this is an entity created in the States. If a single-member LLC does not elect to be treated as a corporation, it's a disregarded entity. The LLC activity should be reflected on its owner's federal income tax return. So if the owner is an individual, it goes in your 1040. Why are we looking at this? Because if you're a foreign person and you have an LLC, your activities are done outside the U.S. That's why you're not paying U.S. income taxes. It's based on the source of income. We're going to talk about that more, but source, and I guess I'll pull up this tab. When we talk about source of income, all wages and compensation for services performed within the United States are from sources in the U.S. The place where personal services are performed generally determines the source of personal service income, no matter where the contract was made, the place of payment, or the residence of the payer. It matters where you're doing the work. This isn't really the site I want to go to. So let's go back to the question. Does my foreign-owned single-member LLC need to file 1099s? I say no based on these regulations. I know it's not like the clearest, but it's also, practically speaking, if you're a foreign person just paying Americans, you wouldn't have the U.S. TIN, you wouldn't have the information by which to file 1099s. If you want to file them to be safe, you can. They have to be filed electronically. Generally speaking, there's a lot of online services that can do it pretty cheaply. You need to get a W-9 from everyone you're going to file for because you need to share their information. When do you not need to? Not required to file information returns when you're not engaged in a trade or business. That means I used to interpret this as not doing business in the U.S., but in the code, it really looks like you're just like have an LLC that you just have for fun. Also, you don't need to file if you're engaged in a trade or business and the payment was made to another business that was incorporated but was not for medical or legal services, or the sum was less than $600. So if I'm paying another corporation, I don't need to send a 1099. If you're paying me, you're paying an S corporation, you do not need to send me a 1099. Okay? Next page. Do I have to withhold taxes on payments to foreign contractors? Now, this is publication 515. It's from the Internal Revenue Service, withholding of tax on non-resident aliens and foreign entities. This is really important stuff, because if you have a U.S. business and you're paying foreign people and you're supposed to withhold taxes and you don't, you're subject to that tax. Like you're kind of on the hook for it. Luckily for us, if the services are performed outside the U.S., they're not subject to taxes. So we're going to go through here. This is going to go over This publication is really helpful. So let's go to page 3, withholding of tax. In most cases, a foreign person is subject to U.S. tax on its U.S. source income. We just looked that the sourcing is where the services are performed. If they do the work in the U.S., it's U.S. source and you should withhold taxes. But if I'm paying my team in Canada, if I pay people for doing marketing services in Canada, I don't have to withhold taxes because they're doing the work there. So we don't have to withhold taxes on payments to the foreign contractors because it's based on where the source is. Forms 1042 and 1042S obligations, that's if you withhold taxes, you have to file these forms. And that's if you're making payments of like dividends or royalties or rental income or something. If you're paying your landlord who's in the US and they don't give you a W-8 ECI, which is kind of a different topic, then you should be withholding taxes. Now let's look down here. Form 1099, reporting and backup withholding. You may also be responsible as a payor for reporting payments to U.S. person, generally on a Form 1099. You must withhold 24% you made to that person if the following apply. They don't give you a TIN number. They don't share you the information. So basically, if you're paying Americans, but they won't give you the right information, you should penalize them by withholding taxes. This is doesn't happen very often, but it can happen. It's not generally enforced, but it can be enforced, and it by the letter of the law should be enforced. So if someone's going to pay me and they know I'm an American, I'm doing work in the U.S., but I won't give them a 1099 or a W-9 or a W-8 to identify myself, then they should withhold taxes. That's what it says. Now let's go back down here. Foreign persons, here we go, who provide a valid Form W-8 or applicable documentary evidence when permitted in lieu of a Form W-8 are exempt from backup withholding and Form 1099 reporting. So if you're paying, and this is really important, send this to your American client. We looked at this first. You have an LLC, it's disregarded, so it goes back to you. So that means that you have to file a Form W-8-BEN. This Form W-8-BEN is going to be a certificate of status of beneficial owner of the United States. Now and this is going to be your name of who's the beneficial owner. You're the beneficial owner because you own an LLC, which is disregarded. Now, when we go back to this, if you give a W-8 to them, they shouldn't have backup withholding for services performed outside of the United States, and they should not give you a 1099 either. Now, I know this is a lot to do to get paid, but this is why it works, right? So I think I answered all the questions. Let's summarize it really quick because I'm trying to talk fast because this content's a little bit dry and I want to answer the question, give you guys good stuff and as quickly as possible. So do I have to file a 1099? Yes, if you have a U.S. multi-member LLC or a corporation or you're an American based in the U.S. and you're paying people who are in the U.S. more than $600 and they're not corporations. Okay? Do I have to... When is this due? January 31st. The penalties for filing late aren't super huge. I'm not going to go over that here, but it's like $100 per form. Ideally, you file it on time. I haven't really seen them assessed. Now, the big one, this part 2 of the video, do I have to send 1099s to my foreign contractors, to my team outside the United States? As long as I have a W-8 on file, it says Form W-8 or applicable documentary evidence when permitted in lieu of a W-8. But that's the whole series, W-8, B-E-N, B-E-N-E. Any kind of W-8, I don't have to issue them a 1099, and I also do not have to withhold taxes. Now, if you're tired of watching YouTube videos about this stuff and you want to work with us directly, you can schedule a free call. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to help you out. If you need help with the 1099s, doing your annual tax filings, opening companies and bank accounts, we definitely do that too. So thanks for being here. Like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.